This is the biggest announcement in the whole year for fans of Dead by Daylight, and it's not even close. Yeah, new updates and characters are cool, but that happens every so often. This is a first timer, never happened before. We've always wanted a Dead by Daylight movie, and we are getting something a lot better than that. We have two studios joining forces to come up with this new game. The first studio is Midwinter Entertainment, which for a lot of people that don't know, is the studio that developed and shut down the Scavengers game. A game that had a lot of promise but sadly underwent through too many issues. They were then brought by Behavior Interactive, the makers of Dead by Daylight, and now that studio is partnering up with Supermassive Games, a much more skilled studio with multiple amazing games. Until Dawn being their biggest success of course, but they have Little Hope, House of Ashes, The Quarry. These guys are experts on the horror story genre, so we have basically the makers of Dead by Daylight along experts of the horror story field, and they've decided that they're going to make a single player Dead by Daylight game, and that is something that a lot of people have wanted for a long time. Thankfully, the official Dead by Daylight channel uploaded a video which proves all the information to be true.
Now we're thrilled to be collaborating with Behavior on a brand new single-player interactive story game set in the terrifying omniverse of Dead by Daylight.
We've been working.
One key detail is the idea that this new game is going to have an interactive story, and other mentions from the video include that this Dead by Daylight game is going to be an intense narrative experience filled with life or death situations. So it is looking very similar to their previous games as far as what the gameplay will be. They also quote,
"Our game will be set outside the entity's realm and feature the story of a new cast of characters who players will follow for an unprecedented experience beyond the fog."
So it seems as though we won't see any characters from Dead by Daylight at all, whether that's past or present. As the video continues, it is revealed that we will have more information later this year, and that information will be very likely a trailer. Judging by the release cycle of Supermassive Games, they tend to lean to a 1 to 2 year cycle on their games, but since this title is in early development, it sparks curiosity to know how quickly they can get this done. A release date of late 2024 does not seem impossible for such a studio, so it is likely that we will see this sooner than expected. Once again, for people excited, remember this is mainly an interactive story game. That's where Supermassive really exceeds. But to be fair, if you like Until Dawn for example, or if you don't know what that game is and you go check it out after seeing this and you're interested, then this game will be very similar to that, so you'll like it as well. Yeah, it'd also be good to play this as a single player RPG style game where you fight monsters and killers, but the way Supermassive does their games, they're almost getting both a game and a movie because of how impressive their work is. And if I had to guess on what this game will kinda be like, we will likely begin as a group of 4 teenagers or really young adults with a regular life and hobbies like most of us have. During the month of October, they are making plans on what they want to do for Halloween. They debate whether they want to go to a party or a haunted house, but they come across a newspaper revealing a newly shut down location. That location is a really small town in the middle of nowhere, whose some claim is haunted. That led the entire place to be abandoned by its residents, and this happened 100 years ago, but it has recently been shut down after a group of people who were visiting disappeared without leaving a trace. And young people being young thought it'd be fun to spend the weekend there, camping out in the forest that surrounds the place. After they all agreed, they began to plan everything. All of this was a curiosity to them, and by October 28th, they packed their things and traveled in their SUV 500 miles north. As they pass by and they get closer, they start noticing that the environment is more foggy every passing minute. But it's not insanely foggy, so they don't make a huge deal out of it. Then, after a few hours, they finally arrive. The town of Spring Hill. Now being 9 PM, it is very dark. There's no civilization in this area, so the lights don't work. There's just silence. Regardless, they continue to set up their tents and sleeping bags and sleep for the night. It's been a long day of driving and the excitement hasn't really let them rest properly, so they head to bed. 8 hours later, they wake up only to see that it's still nighttime. No birds singing, no light on the sky, still pitch dark, only illuminated by the moon. And in a hurry, thinking they were somehow awoken at night, they check the time only to see that it is 8 in the morning. And they don't make a big deal out of it. It must just be a weird day. After all, we're in the middle of nowhere and it's not exactly the summer. They now begin their mission to explore this so-called haunted town, and they come across multiple houses. Really old school 1800s house. And as they're checking the house out, they start to see pictures and all sorts of memories from the old resident of that specific house. But then, minutes later, they suddenly gasp for air. In the living room, somehow there's a TV that is still on, but it's silent, which is why they didn't hear it before. How could this TV be on for so long? This house has been inhabited for over 100 years. And right there, they start to believe what the newspaper said. But before they were able to do anything, they hear footsteps slowly walking down the stairs. The wood creaks, and they get louder and louder. Soon they all quickly hide behind a closet, and as the shadow reaches the bottom steps, they begin to see what appears to be a really tall human. But as soon as he completely reveals himself, this is no regular human. He has what appears to be a hockey mask, and his arms, they seem like they went through some trauma. His skin is burnt and there's blood all over his chest. But worst of all, he is carrying a trap in his right arm, and some kind of machete type weapon on his left arm. He knows they're there. He begins to look for them very aggressively, and as he's putting a trap in the front door, they run out of the closet as fast as they can. But this has led them to be too loud, and the monster now knows the location. They run as fast as they can and are able to go out of the window they initially entered in. But now the monster is chasing them on foot along the town until they reach the forest. They're running for miles and miles until they lose track of him. Now they don't know where he is. And on top of that, they don't know where to go. Their phones are dead and they don't even have an outlet to charge. It is all up to them to look for a way to exit this place. However, the worst part hasn't even been realized. It is still nighttime, and after one of the guys checks his watch, it shows that it's only 3 p.m. This whole time they were so worried about the monster that they forgot to look at their surroundings. This whole time the sun disappeared and never came back. How can this be? Well, that wasn't the question they wanted to know anymore. They wanted to leave this place now. No questions about it. However, as they start to march down the forest, they were quickly stopped by a big stone wall. Well, this wasn't here before, so what's going on? They tell themselves as they try to rationalize what happened. Okay, so now they move and follow the wall to see how wide it stretches. There's clearly an opening because that's how they entered in the first place. Well, after hours of circling the perimeter, they have no luck. They couldn't find an opening, and this is just beyond crazy at this point. How can this be? And that was quickly answered when they saw a big metal gate shut. They had come in through that gate, but with all the fun they were having, they never realized that somebody must have seen them enter. And now they're locked inside. All hope just shatters right there. What is there to do? There's not really much other to do than try to find a way to open this. So they notice some wires going across the ground, which they follow. They walk for give or take 2 miles until they see what it looks like to be a generator. Loose cables under, but so many that unless you have experience with electrician work, this won't be a simple task. The group puts 2 and 2 together and comes to the realization that if they want to leave that place, they have to find all the generators and fix them up to power up the gate and open it. But there will be different trials they'll have to go through to make that happen, because many people get in, but no one ever gets out. And that's basically what I can come up with as of right now. But with such a talented studio like Supermassive, expect an unforgettable tale that you'll want to replay multiple times. The Dead by Daylight team couldn't have made a better decision.
Ha 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 ha!